Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me here today to talk about the Los Angeles Rams 2024 team preview, my guy, Jay McLovin. Jay, what's going on, man?
I am doing well, sir. I am doing well. And, this Rams team, they look pretty impressive. I got to tell you, on paper, they look pretty good.
They do. And we're going to get right into that in just a second. But, guys, if you enjoy the episode, like, follow, share, and subscribe. You know what to do, Facebook and YouTube. Also, go download our podcast every single week on Apple and Spotify and wherever else you enjoy listening to podcasts. Well, you can find us over there as well. All right, Jay, what do you like about these Rams team? Last year, overall solid, 10-7. Can they improve on that? Or you think they might go a little bit down for the worse? What are your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, in 2000, they won the Super Bowl in 21. And 22, Stafford had some injuries, and they fell and had a terrible year. But then they came back in 23, with a healthy Stafford, and they in a really good draft in Pakua Nacua and Atwell. So they did 10-7 last year. I think this year, with the additions that they've taken on, even though you have a subtraction that Aaron Darnold retired, which was a big loss for those guys on that defensive end, if you know Darren Darnold. But I still have them going 12-5. I think it's possible. I really honestly do. Stetson Bennett took some time off, went down and got his mental self straightened out and came back refreshed to the point where McVay is really singing his praises. Obviously, Stetson will be number 2 or 3. I think he'd be number 3 on the depth chart behind Jimmy G. And, of course, Stafford will be leading the way. Question for me is Stafford wants an adjusted contract. He's set up to make $31.5 million. I don't think he's really necessarily trying to get to the $50 million mark like Dak and the rest of those guys are trying to do. But I think he's really looking for more of the guaranteed side. He wants, because right now his guarantee is non-guaranteed. So he's looking for more of that guarantee to really make him feel like he wants to be a part of this Rams team. Now, just because he's looking to have his contract adjusted, he's not skipping OTAs. He's not skipping minicamp. He's not doing all that kind of stuff. He is actually there with the team, which is a good thing. I think that part, the guaranteed side, they're going to do right by him. I think that gets worked out, and it won't be that big of an issue. But I think until it gets worked out, it could be a slight distraction up until that point. But what I like about this is they drafted Blake Corum, which I'm a huge Blake Corum. I really do. I think he's a good workhorse. Out of Michigan. You saw what he did out there in Michigan. I think he can translate that real nicely over to these Rams. He'll be sitting right behind Keenan Williams. So I think between those two guys, that's going to be a really nice 1-2 punch on the running side of it. But I do think they are in a little bit of a crunch right now in terms of pressure. And what I mean by that is I think this is kind of like the last true run that they have in them in this Stafford era. And then after that, I think it's going to go to a new era for the Rams. So I really think, that window is kind of closing on those guys. So they're really going to have to step it up this year if they want to really, truly compete. They do have lots of depth at that team. Obviously, at the quarterback, they've got 3 spots there, so they're good. Running back, they got 2 spots. They still have a really good Higbee and those guys on the wide receiver set. So I think the offense is going to be okay. When I look at the losses, who I think they're going to lose to this year, I think it's going to be the 49ers, and I think they lose to them twice. I think they're going to lose to Detroit, Miami, and Philly. I think this team's ceiling could be 12-5, and I think their floor will be 6-11. And if they do go 6-11, I think it's going to be reminiscent back to that 2022 season where it's going to be injuries to Stafford. I think if they can keep Stafford healthy, then this team has, and like they did last year in 23, then that ceiling should be 12-5. But if not, I think they go to 6-11. But it all really depends on the play of that O-line. And can that O-line open up those holes for the run game and also protect Stafford and keep him healthy? That really is the big key there.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some good points. And obviously, Matt Stafford ain't getting any younger, but we know that he's still throwing the ball and slinging it with the best of them. We know Stetson Bennett still has yet to play much in the league, and glad that he stepped away, got his mentals right, and hopefully he's going to come back stronger than ever. Jimmy Garoppolo, who they picked up, Jay, we know he's not going to be there for a little bit. He got popped he's suspended for a couple of games, so he'll be chilling on the bench, just kind of watching the team. Rest of this team, though, I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. They are one of the top offenses potentially in this league if everything clicks right. We know that the running back room got stronger. When you look at Kyron Williams, a guy who last year came out of really nowhere, Jay, and ran the ball 228 times, 1,144 yards. Those are 13th in terms of carries, third in terms of yardage, and 12 touchdowns, which is tied for 7th in the league from last season. A guy, Jay, who's a 5th-round pick. And he has by far exceeded expectations for this team. That's how you know the GMs are doing their work, man, and scouting these players, because Kyron Williams has been doing some good work for them. Blake Corum. I mean, need I say more? What he did with Michigan? I mean, you could really have, if they really, Jay, and that's the thing too. If Stafford struggles, they have probably one of the a potential top running back room if Corum pans out like a lot of people think he will, which is scary. So then let's add on top of that. Why not get one of the probably deadliest 1, 2, 3 punches in the NFL with Cooper Kupp, who had a little bit of a down year last season, as we know, but we know he only played in 12 games. But we know the run he can go on. Like you mentioned, with Tutu Atwell, a young guy who, like I said, he's only 24, but he's got flashes to be, a really solid third receiver. And then the guy who, when you thought of the receiving core for the Rams, you'd always say it's going to be Cooper. But this guy said, no, you know what? About that, I'm going to change this narrative. And once again, Jay, I mentioned Kyron Williams, 5th-round pick. Well, this guy also was a 5th-round pick, and that's Mr. Puka Nacua, 5th-rounder by way of BYU, who we all know the impact he made last year. 105 catches, 1,486 yards, 6 TDs, and a 14.2 average per catch. I mean, if he can build off of that, this is a really good offensive team. And as you mentioned with the tight end room, you got Tyler Higbee, who's been solid for them for a couple of seasons now. They also got Colby Parkinson, young guy as well for a good backup role. But this is a really good stacked team on offense. Like you said, it's all going to depend on how this team can do the O-lines. We always talk about that, but it really is, because you've got guys like Albert Jackson, Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, Rob Havenstein, Zach Thomas, Bo Lemer, Logan Bruss, got to throw him in there. How they could do. If you can give Stafford time to wait in the pocket, because we know his legs aren't, or his best running games are probably behind him. If you can give him time to work, and if you can give your receivers and your running backs time to get things going, this is going to be a top offense in this league, because we know, Jay, that Sean McVay, the head coach, is an offensive wizard. I mean, he can just dial up tremendous plays like we've seen him do for many years now. Flipping over to the defense, as you mentioned, say goodbye, Aaron Donald. Tremendous career, going to be in the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. But, Jay, I love what they did with this draft, because they knew they needed some holes to fill, and they got it by helping out their defense with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. Those are the main two I'm looking at there, because I think that both of those guys, Jay, Verse the linebacker and Fisk, as we know, going to be on the DN, they know each other well. They both went to the same school in Florida State. They already have chemistry there on the defense that you don't have to worry about for at least those two players. And you add that on the fact that they've got other, solid, just really good players as well. I mean, they are looking solid in terms of, they picked up Tre'Davious White for the cornerbacks room. He's been good for years. Cameron Curl as well, strong safety. I mean, he's also been one of the top safeties for a while now, a guy who maybe doesn't get talked about nearly as much, but probably should. I think that this team, of course, Darius Williams, well, I can't forget him. I think, I like you said, this is a team who has a pretty high ceiling. But it's going to be tough, Jay, because we know who runs things out west. And you got to knock them off. Like I said the other day with William Yanish talking about the Niners and their team preview, hey, y'all might be the kings out there in NFC West, but you ain't knocked off the champs yet in Kansas City.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel with Los Angeles right now. You got a really solid team on paper. You have probably one of the best head coaches in the league. But you got to knock off the champs. You got to be able to knock off San Fran. That's how it's going to be telling to me, Jay, if this team, how far they can go. I expect good things from them. I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I think it could be a dogfight all season. I'm expecting big things. I think the Rams, I don't think they're going to win the NFC West, Jay, but I would not be shocked one bit if this team pulls in as a wild card because they have just that much potential. I love the additions that they've made on their defense. Their offense didn't add a whole lot, but they didn't really need to. They made it even stronger with Blake Corum. They added all those pieces I just mentioned on defense. So I think that the Rams are lining up to have a solid season here. Like you said, Jay, not that many left with Matt Stafford under helm, so you got to make him count while he's there. Jay, I appreciate it, man. Coming on the show, talking about the Rams, always a fun time. Guys, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. If you enjoyed the episode, like, follow, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again